Hello and welcome to another video. You're watching the Flying Outdoors YouTube channel. My name is Elias, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 things you should watch out for if you're going to be driving your car in the winter. Now I know a lot of you guys that own Civic Type Rs take your Type Rs and put them away in the winter. But if you guys recall and remember, I had in 2017 Honda Civic Type R, and it was a lot more exciting looking than this. Oh, this thing looks amazing, don't get me wrong. But I drove that thing through Pennsylvania winters, and I did tons of videos with me driving it. I tried to do some donuts, hilariously, in a parking lot when it snowed. And the way you do that is you put it in reverse. These cars, you put it in reverse and you try to do some donuts that way. It's not the best. But I learned a few things, and I'd like to share that knowledge with you guys if you're considering, and you should consider, driving your Civic Type R in the snow. Now, there's one major thing that you should really take care of before this thing sees snow, because salt and grime, etc., are really going to take its toll on this thing. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and go through that list. If you like these type of videos, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps me out. Let's get started. As we get closer here, the first one you need to watch out for is if you have sporty summer tires. Like, for example, these stock Civic Type R tires. These are Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. Really excellent tires. Here they are. They're really good tires for highway, really good tires for the rain. Great tires for track as well. I mean, I've used this for a number of track days. They got a little bit of life left, not that much. And they've done really well. I love these tires. However, if the temperature gets below 40 degrees, these tires will get you in trouble for many reasons. The first issue with using summer performance tires in the winter is that if you get it below, let's say even 50 degrees, the rubber is not really designed for that temperature. And so you get into a situation where this rubber really gets reduced grip on any pavement. So if you're driving along and you're trying to have a little fun, and it's 30 degrees, 40 degrees out, you're gonna have some problems if you're not used to the car sliding around on you. Now, if you don't like the idea of your car sliding around on you, I really recommend that you change these out for some better all-season tires, and I'll give you guys some recommendations at the end of this video. But I'll give you, some all-season or even winter tires will be a lot better than running these tires in the winter. You really should not run these Pilot Sport 4S tires. Even though it says 4S for 4 seasons, anything below 40 degrees, very dangerous for, number one, the grip, and number two, these can actually crack and fail at speed if it's very, very, very cold. Again, the rubber structure of this tire is not designed to work under 40 degree weather, and I'm talking 40 degree Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Effectively close to 0 degrees centigrade, which is about 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Very dangerous for these tires to be on the road in that temperature. And if you try to use these tires in the snow, you're just downright stupid. It will not grip. You may get tire failure. It's just going to be all bad for you, so don't do it. If you want to drive your Civic or any car on the winter on the road, you're going to want to change your sport summer tires to something better. This next issue applies to any vehicle with low profile tires. As you can see, this car obviously has low profile tires. If you have even 4Runners, I know 4Runners, the limited trim of the 4Runners have low profile tires. I don't know why people buy big giant trucks and SUVs with low profile tires, because you're gonna wanna use those vehicles on rougher pavement. And man, the biggest problem is when you have low profile tires, and especially if you're driving through the winter, winter really means potholes. And if you know anything about living in New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, any of these areas that have rough winters, they're gonna have potholes, and potholes are gonna start to bend and crack and destroy your low profile wheels. And they not only will they do that, it'll also puncture your tire. And so you're gonna be left stranded in the middle of the road somewhere that's cold, that you're gonna have to get AAA or someone to come pick you up, pay an expensive fee to maybe replace these wheels. I think a replacement for these wheels is something around like 500 bucks from Honda. So I would just get aftermarket wheels. Again, if you have low profile wheels and tires, be very careful in the winter. My recommendation is downsize your wheel as much as you can. The limit for Civic Type Rs, for example, is an 18-inch wheel. So this is a 19-inch wheel. An 18-inch wheel gives you that another inch of tire wall, which helps a lot in absorbing pothole damage. And so if you're gonna drive your Civic Type R in the winter, get lower profile wheels, and so 18-inch wheels, and get some good all-season or winter tires. My recommendations for both wheels and tires, let's do that. Now the problem with recommending tires and wheels is that these recommendations are very vehicle and application specific. So if you ask me what you should put on your tow truck, your dually Silverado 3500 HD, it's gonna be a very different recommendation than what do I put on my 1995 Porsche 911. It's a completely different world. So we're gonna concentrate here mainly on the Civic Type R and other sporty hatchbacks like the GR Corolla, the WRX. It's not a hatchback, but it's a sporty, you know, compact sedan. And so my favorite all-season tires is actually the Continental DWS, which stands for dry, wet, snow. And that's one of the very few tires I believe, and I've actually seen this, I've seen lots of reviews, I've actually driven them in the, I haven't driven in the snow, I've driven them in the rain. They're really good tires for the rain, from my experience, and everyone loves their performance on the snow, and they're pretty decent on the dry as well. So if you have a sportier car, you know, even all the Beamers that are out there, etc., the Continental DWS tires, dry, wet, snow tire. My favorite tire for all season. In terms of wheels, I'm a big fan of Koenig wheels. Koenig wheels, if you're trying to get some lower end, some more inexpensive winter wheels, get 18-inch wheels. Koenig has a great selection of them. A lot of track drivers use Koenig wheels. They're a good budget design. I love my Koenig wheels. I'll put a link in the description below for some Koenig wheels. The other wheels that I recommend are Apex wheels. Apex does really high quality wheels, and they do a great job for the Civic Type Rs. And obviously Titan 7s has, that's a newer brand. They do really good high-end sport wheels or high-end track wheels. So if you're interested in looking at those, I'll put some links down in the description below. But those are my recommendations for wheels and tires for your Civic Type R or other sportier car in the winter. This next one has to do about ground clearance. So we're gonna go down here and I'm gonna show you guys what I mean about ground clearance. This car is a sporty hatchback, so it's not crazy low to the ground. But as you can see, it doesn't have that much space. Let's go ahead and get closer. I literally can't even open my hands all the way, and this reaches the bottom. That's gonna be a big problem, especially if you have, let's say, more than 4 or 5 inches of snow. You're gonna start plowing with this thing, and your traction is gonna be severely reduced. So you're gonna wanna keep an eye on not just the snow levels, but potholes, obstructions, all kinds of stuff that bad winter weather brings. This is a very low to the ground car, and if you have a low to the ground car, driving it in the winter, I recommend doing it. I love enjoying my car in the winter, but you gotta keep in mind that you have very low ground clearance, and that will come back to bite you if you don't pay attention to it. This next one is kind of a shout out to all of my front wheel drive owners and fans out there. Now, in case you guys missed my previous videos that I've done on track with my Camaro, with my Corvettes, you may have missed the fact that I am, let's say I need to confess that I am a front wheel drive track driver. I prefer front wheel drive to rear wheel drive when I do my spirited track driving. Maybe it's because I'm used to it. Maybe it's because, you know, I've had front wheel drive my whole life. My Prelude, that was my main car for about 12 years, so I just got used to driving front wheel drive. Whatever the case may be, I'm a front wheel drive guy. But if you're gonna drive your front wheel drive sports car in the winter, you gotta keep in mind that it's not all wheel drive, and all wheel drive is going to be better going uphill and a slick surface than front wheel drive will be. Now, with good winter tires, with good snow tires, you're not gonna have issues with traction. It's gonna be difficult for you to find issues with traction. The key with front wheel drives is that the engine up front, so the weight distribution is a little bit more front facing, so forward facing. So there's gonna be more weight on the front, meaning there's more traction, more friction. And so it's not that big of a deal, but If you put the same exact tires on this car, and then you put those same tires on, let's say, a GR Corolla or a WRX, and you compete uphill in the snow, obviously the all-wheel drive cars are going to do better than the front-wheel drive car. But besides that, honestly, front-wheel drive would not be a bad deal, a big deal to drive in the snow. It's really easy to maneuver. If you're careful, all it does is understeer for the most part, and you can easily manage that. If you're going into a corner and it doesn't want to turn, just tap on the brakes a little bit. It will start gripping, and then you'll be able to get yourself out of it. And if the back end starts sliding out for whatever reason, just give it more gas. That's basically the fundamentals of front-wheel drive at the limit driving. I love it. I know a lot of you guys on my channel enjoy front-wheel drive. So it is a limitation. It's something to watch out for. And so that's why I listed it here. But if you know me, I love my front-wheel drive, and that would not stop me from driving this in the winter. Now, for this last one, it has to do all about paint quality of your car. And it doesn't really matter how good the paint quality of your car is. Winter is extremely harsh to the paint of any car. There's a number of reasons why. Number one, when you're driving, especially in the snow, all of that salt and grime gets shot up into the air, especially if you're behind another vehicle, and lands right on your paint. It's effectively like taking a sandblaster and blasting your car as you go along. That's how bad it is for the paint. The clear coat gets damaged, the paint gets damaged, the paint starts flaking off. And that's just the salt. In a lot of areas, especially like Pennsylvania, they use, instead of salt, they use like a mixture of rocks and sand. Can you imagine when you're behind a vehicle and there's a little bit of snow or slush on the ground, that stuff gets spit up at you, and there's rocks, there's sand, maybe a little bit of salt in there, all on your beautiful new paint job. It's not great for the paint at all. And so if you're gonna be driving any car, I would recommend getting it Z-barded. So there's ways to coat the underbody to make sure that it doesn't rust out from the bottom. But especially if your paint is weak, like Honda's paints, if you own a Honda from basically 2017 and on, and especially like if you have this red Civic Type R, I don't know what it is about this paint in specific, but this thing just, if you breathe on it wrong, it will chip. And so if you have one of these, get a paint protection film. I really recommend it. And or at the very least, I would get this thing waxed and ceramic coated and do all the things that can help the surface survive the harshness of the winter. Honestly, the one thing that would stop me from driving this car in the winter is how badly the paint will fare after maybe 2 or 3 years of driving this thing through the snow, through the rocks, through the rain. It won't be good. The only way I would drive this thing in the winter is if the whole car were PPF'd. And I'm talking about the whole thing, the top, the bottom, even the back, because that's how weak this paint is. And a lot of cars these days have weak paints. It's just the environmental deal, right? So I feel like everything, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but quality of things has really gone downhill the more environmentalism has taken place. We used to have proper cars with proper paint jobs. My old Beamers, you could hit them with a baseball bat and the paint still sticks on there. My X5, I jackknifed a trailer onto it, and where it hits, the paint is still perfectly on there. Do this with this thing and the paint will probably flake off. That's just my experience with this stuff. Anyway, not to get too involved in the paint discussion. I've talked about cars paints, especially this one, a lot on this channel. You guys are probably tired of hearing me talk about it at this point. If you are, you know who you are. Let me know in the comments below. I get it. I will soon get this PPF, but I really feel like manufacturers should do a better job at painting their vehicles. With that said, if you are gonna drive your car in the winter, you gotta make sure to protect your paint, and at the very least, wash your car as regularly as you can to get that salt and grime off of it. You don't want that stuff rubbing in your paint and taking your clear coat off. That's the last thing you want. All right, if you guys have any questions, put them down below in the comments. If I missed anything, if there's anything you guys want to talk about when it comes to either the Type R or any Hondas or anything to do with winter driving, put it down below in the comments. I read every single comment. I like to respond to a lot of them. I really appreciate you guys watching the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace.